Okay, we are working on lesson 1-7, and we're talking about ordered pairs. So 1-7 and ordered pairs. You have worked with ordered pairs before. You've actually dealt with it a lot, and we're going to make sure we get the basic terminology down, and then we're going to be able to graph basic points and read the graphs of basic points. So you're going to have to be transferring points onto a coordinate plane and then reading those points from the coordinate plane and giving their names and all that. Okay, so here we have a coordinate system. It is very useful, by the way. If you ever use GPS, you're using a coordinate system. So how many of you have ever used a GPS to find someplace or go someplace or identify a location? Okay, if you've ever used it, and if you haven't, you will. I've used it so many times. Very helpful. But basically what they did is they made our entire globe this giant grid. And each specific location has specific coordinates. So that coordinate system that we use on a piece of paper is a mini version of what can be used. And you can actually map out a three-dimensional plane or a three-dimensional space like space. And you can say, all right, how far is that planet from this planet? And you can use coordinate geometry, but that's for later stuff. Okay, coordinate system is what we're using. It is formed by the intersection of two number lines. And I'll move in just a moment. So you guys have dealt with number lines before. The most common number line that we use, bless you, and we're still using the note paper, don't use the graph paper yet. So the most common number line we use is the horizontal number line. And where does it usually start? We usually start, and it doesn't always, but usually for us. Jensen? Point? Yeah, it starts at a point. What's that point usually? Right dead center of the whole number line that we usually use. Yeah? Zero. Yeah, it's a 0 right here, right there. And then you have all the positive numbers to the right, and then what numbers go to the left? Negative numbers, right? That's one number line. When you're using the coordinate system, now what do? You use a second number line, and that's the vertical. Wow. I will change that up. That is the vertical axis, or the vertical number line. Now, do we ever use a vertical number line for any application? Does anyone ever use that? Like, I use the horizontal a lot, but does anyone ever use that vertical side? What do you think, Michael? Charts. Like, have you ever seen like fundraising charts? You know how they get higher. You fill up this like thermometer. Thermometers use them. And then the higher you go, the more you get. And then you eventually get to like where it explodes because you filled your requirement or whatever they do. We're going to also start this vertical number line at 0 right here. So where do these two number lines intersect? Where do they intersect? At both of their coordinates specifically. What are those coordinates? John? 0. So you see this horizontal? 0. And I know I got to kind of cover it here. And this number line starts at 0 right here when they intersect. Okay. Does anyone know what that point is called here?
Middle point?
Not middle point. Yep. It's called the origin. Origin. So go ahead and write that down. The origin. Okay? So that's right where they intersect, the origin. Okay, I call these number lines, but they actually have specific names that are more useful to us nowadays. What is this number line called? It's called a blank axis. You guys remember what axis is called, Marissa?
I just lost it.
All right. You want to phone a friend? Oh,
Horizontal?
it's horizontal and it has a specific name.
Oh, I can't remember.
That's right, Emma Grace.
X-axis.
X-axis. So go ahead and label that X-axis. So this horizontal axis is called or you could say this horizontal number line is called the X-axis. All right, so what's this vertical number line called? A specific name, Braden?
Y-axis.
Y-axis. Y-axis there. Okay? Those are the basic parts of a coordinate plane or the coordinate system. Two number lines that intersect at the origin. Yes? There is a Z. That would be that three-dimensional. So I can't draw it, especially because I can't draw very well. But it would be a number line going like that. Like where my pen is going and into the paper, which is cool because that's a three-dimensional axis. But we're dealing with two-dimensional. Good, two-dimensional. Yes?
Well, it was about three-dimensional.
The what?
Three-dimensional.
Uh-huh.
Where would you use it?
Oh, like we can use it here. So like I can say, it's 2 steps, and I'm using very basic informal terms. 2 steps forward, 1 step to my left, and then 2 feet up. So now I'm thinking this way, that could be my X, that could be my Y, that will be my Z. So that's the 3-dimension. Length, width, depth. So length, width, and they can switch, but then depth. And again, I can't draw it. I'm sorry. Maybe if we had a 3D printer?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Or whatever Iron Man uses to do all this cool stuff. All right, anyway, all this right here is something that you need to know because everything else is based off of those concepts right here, okay? So the next thing I want you to get are what are ordered pairs? Ordered pairs. So does anyone know what an ordered pair is? Yep, Tristan?
Isn't it like 2 numbers and it's like coordinates on the graph?
Okay, good. It's made up of 2 numbers. 1 number represents the location on the x-axis, and the other number represents location on the y-axis. Okay. 1 number represents the location on the, and then I'll give you a simpler way of looking at it, because I'm giving you like a long definition here, so you kind of understand what we're talking about, and then boom, the simple way. Location on the x-axis, and I'll put and the other on the y. On the y-axis. Okay, so that's like the long way of explaining it. Okay, let's think of our alphabet. And I'm really proud of my son now, because you know how Ezra, yeah, the 2.5-year-old. You know how when we say our alphabet, when we get to L, M, N, O, P, we kind of do that N, M, N, and P. You know, we kind of just like butcher those letters. And I'm starting to hear L, M, N, O, P. I'm like, yes, he's getting them. But think of your alphabet. What comes first, X or Y?
Z.
X or Y, those are the choices, not A. I know where A goes, but I'm talking about where X and Y, where do they go in the alphabet? All right, let's see, Michael. X comes first, okay? So the informal way of showing you what an ordered pair is, it's going to be denoted or written down with parentheses. Okay, you got to put parentheses on these coordinate pairs. You're going to have 2 numbers separated by a comma. And you're going to have to write the x value first, then the y value. You cannot, write this down. Yep, this is for you guys. Write this down here. You got to have parentheses. You got to have a comma. And you got to have your x number, then your y number. Okay? If you switch them around, you're somewhere else. You're not where we're at. And do you remember with order of operations why we do order of operations? Because if we didn't do order of operations, what could happen?
You could get multiple answers for the same problem.
Yeah, I did it this way, I did it this way. No, I did it this way. And you're all getting different answers, and we're all right. Or if you want to think of it, you're all wrong. So we got to do it one way so that all of us know what's going on. And that's nice that the GPS system, the global positioning system, is doing it one way. Like Google Maps doesn't do it different from MapQuest, because that could get confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say you must write it in this format. The x coordinate first, then the y coordinate. Okay, I just used a term on you. Coordinate. Oh my. Okay. X coordinate. And that's the first one. The x coordinate. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Horizontal axis. And if you're like, horizontal, what are you talking about? Let's just say left to right. By the way, I'm going to make a little confession here. For most of my life, I struggled with left and right. Like, what's left? For you guys, left and right. Man, I find it very hard for someone to just automatically, that's left for me, that's right for me. How many of you struggle with directions, like north and south? Like they say, hey, that's north, and you're like, which north are you talking about? In Denver, where I lived, we have mountains, the Rockies, and people would say this, all right, if you want to know where west is, just look at the mountains. I'm like, oh, those mountains. Okay, I get that. But there are some places, I'm just saying, there's some places where the mountains are, okay, they're over there, they're over there, they're over there. They're still over there. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Wait, they're still going. What's west? Okay, so there are some helpful things. Maybe you know west and east and north and south from like personal reference points. But for me, I struggle with it. Horizontal is referring to left to right, from left to right. You know how you're going to get better with left to right if you struggle with it? You got to practice it. Yeah, some of you do the letters, but this is what I do now. When I drive, I say, I'm going to go left. And so I'm like, left. I'm going to go right. And I've been doing that so long that I finally got it down. Wait, left and right. Okay. Also, a little help. I used to be a driving instructor during the summers, so I used to have to tell my kids go left and right. So if I told them to go left, but I really meant right, do you think that's going to go well? No. No. I'll tell you about that later. I'll tell you more about that, because there were some times where I flipped them around. That could be kind of hard. Okay, but anyway, you got to know left and right, and if you don't know, practice it. By the way, I'm teaching my Ezra, my little guy, I teach him go left, go right. He knows it better than I do. He knows it at 2.5 more than I did at 20, 25. I go, all right, Ezra, turn left, left. And he's turn right, right. And now he's just going left and right. I'm like, this is so cool. He got his mother's sense of direction because she's like left, right, north, east, west. I don't have it, but I have to develop that because I struggle with it. Okay, x-coordinate, horizontal axis, that's left to right. The y-coordinate, how would you describe that? Say that again? Vertical axis, vertical, yes. Vertical axis. And how can you describe that in just like general, informal, normal people's terms?
Up and down.
Up and down. Up and down. Okay.
So if there's like a z-axis coming this way, is there another one going that way?
Yeah, like, so remember the origin point? And I'll show you there. So the horizontal axis starts there, the vertical starts there, and the z starts there, so it does go out and in. You just got to draw it three-dimensional perspective. Like, do you guys have art with Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Ask her to do it because she could probably do it very well. Just explain to her so she can know what you're talking about. Okay, so when you're graphing these points, you got to make sure you have the right coordinates in the right order, referring to the right things. Man, that's a lot to keep track of. So let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead now and take out your graph piece of paper. We're actually going to do this, and I'm going to try to show you how I would do it. Now, I'm going to give you some tips I hope to help you out. All right, so here's my graph paper. What I want you to do is I want you to divide it into fourths. So I want you to divide it in half here and divide it in half there. So fold it up. Don't do it with the pencil because that might be inaccurate or just mess up your paper. So I can't do that, unfortunately, but I'm just going to do this. I draw my line here, fold it in half. Well, that's harder to do than I thought. And then I'm going to fold it in half again. It's be somewhere like right here for me. All right, so those are my quadrants, my fourths. Now, listen to me. This is not my coordinate plane. This is 4 separate coordinate planes that I'll do from this lesson here. Okay, so once you get those fourths, open it up again. We're going to start with the top left box right here, this top left box.
Do you want us to draw on our creases?
No. You can make the creases. That's good enough for you. I have to draw mine so I can show you mine. So you don't have to draw the creases, just have the creases. Good question. All right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to practice drawing a coordinate plane on graph paper correctly. Okay, how many of us struggle with our handwriting? I know at least one.
Michael.
Okay. Now, if you're good at your handwriting, I expect high things. If you're not so good at your handwriting, I still expect high things from you. So it's just going to be a little bit harder. All right. On the top left, we're going to draw a first coordinate plane. It's not going to take up the whole quadrant, this whole box, but it is going to be a neat one. Now, do you guys see how they have lines already drawn for you? When you draw your coordinate plane on graph paper, use the lines. Okay? So here I'm going to use mine, and you can go ahead and follow. It's hard for me up here, by the way. All right, so I'll do something like this. Oh, and it's not calibrated very well, so that even doesn't help. There we go. That's better.
Why is it red?
I put it in the wrong spot, so it's sensing red. Okay, you see how I use that vertical part? And then I'm going to use another. And I'm going to draw arrowheads on the top, bottom, left, and right. Something like that. You guys see what I'm doing here? All right, so you do that. So basically what I'm trying to make you do is don't try to draw your lines in between the lines that are already given to you. They get sloppy. Use the actual line to help you to draw a straight line. And again, it's hard for me because like this smartboard's a little bit tough, but even I could kind of do that. So I hope you can do it on your paper. All right, go ahead and list out the origin and the label the axes. So the origin, where would that be on this coordinate plane? Just draw a little circle and then a little line and write the word origin. And then label the axes. So you have your x-axis and you have your y-axis. Just want you to get comfortable with this terminology and get it down. Okay, now this is what we're going to start working on. Remember how we talked about the ordered pairs? There's the most basic ordered pair that you should know, and it's automatic. It's the origins ordered pair. Does anyone know what the origins ordered pair is? So what are the x and y coordinates for the origin? Mackenzie? 0, 0. That's like something you should memorize. 0, 0. So let me show you how that would work, like a GPS. All right. Whenever you're graphing, you always start at the origin, which is found at 0, 0. So do you move left or right from here? If you're going 0, 0? No. Do you move up or down any? No. You stay right where you started, okay? Everything is based off of that. Yes, sir.
Where would be the 0, 0 for like in the first? Like on like
Oh.
GPS?
I think it's, now I'm not totally sure, but you know how we have latitude and longitude? I think it starts somewhere like west of the United States. I forget what it's called. I can't say for sure, but there's one spot where they have 0, 0, and that's what they call it, and everything is based off of that. But I'm not sure where that point is.
The equator?
No, it's not. Well, it would be by the equator,
And the prime.
but then prime meridian sounds like something, but I'm not sure. It might be that.
And then
The equator. So that sounds good. 0, 0, and then everything is based off of that. Okay. All right, here we have all our piece of info, and the first order pair I want you to get is 0, 0. That's pretty basic, right? All right, you don't have to write this down, but starting at 0, 0, if I go on the horizontal axis to the right, I'm getting these positive numbers, correct? So I have positive 1, and you can do little tick marks on those lines, and those are marking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't do too many, but just do some. Little tiny tick marks. Some people do this, and this is what I don't want you to do. Here's an example of what not to do. That is a tick mark, but that is huge. You need to make them these little tick marks. They're just like little reference points. So don't do that. Don't do that. That's too big. Make them small little tick marks. Does that make sense? Okay. So I have positive 1, positive 2, positive 3, positive 4, so on and so forth. Why do I have that arrow there, by the way? Because it keeps going on forever, but I don't want to draw that. So I draw the arrowhead. All right. From the origin, going to the left, what am I hitting? What numbers? Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, so on and so forth. Remember that pattern. Negative 1, then negative 2, then negative 3. It gets bigger with the absolute value, but it's technically getting smaller in overall value. Okay, starting at the origin, if I go up, what's this value right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Up means positive on the vertical axis. Does that make sense? So what does down mean? Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, so on and so forth. Okay, you guys good with that? Okay, you did so well with that. We're going to go down here, and we're going to draw another coordinate plane, and don't label anything, just put the two axes as best you can. I'm going to do the same here. Just another. We're just getting practice here. I just wanted you to get comfortable, and I want us to do it neatly. Oh, wow, I'm proud of that one. It's much better than the first. Okay, there is my coordinate plane, so go ahead and draw that. Okay, now what I want you to find is, don't write this down yet. I want you to find the ordered pair 5, 3. Where would 5, 3 go? Well, I have no clue. What's the first number represent? Which axis?
X.
The x-axis, the horizontal axis. And the second number represents the?
Y.
Okay, so if you don't know what to do, that's okay, you can look up here. Starting at the origin, what's my x value? What's my x value? Yes, ma'am? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where I end up right here so far. But what is my y value? So where do I go from there? 1, 2, 3. This is the unique location of 5, 3, or the ordered pair 5, 3. Okay? Did you guys see where I got that one from? Okay, let's practice again. So on the same coordinate plane, I want you to get 6, 0. So don't write this down here. You don't have to write this down here, but now find 6, 0. Where would that be? So the first number represents a horizontal. So I go positive 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then where do I go from there?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. I don't go up or down. I stay right there, and I label it 6, 0. That's right here. And actually, I'll make it a different color so most of you can see it. Okay. Are you guys getting this? Okay, let me get you some tough ones here. Negative 3, negative 2. Negative 3, negative 2. Find that location. Negative 3, negative 2. So I start at the origin. I go back 3. 1, 2, 3. And then where do I go from there?
Down.
Down to 1, 2. So I got that point right there. That's negative 3, negative 2. One more. Negative 4, 3. Negative 4, 3. Find negative 4, 3. So starting at the origin, I go to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I go up 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's -4, 3. How many of you were able to find those locations there? Is it important to know which one's the x, which one's the y?
Yes.
Yeah, because if you don't have those, you switch them around, you're going on opposite sides, and we're not talking about the same thing anymore. Does anyone see a pattern with the numbers? Look at the 5, 3 here, both positives. Point's right there. Both of these are negative. The point is right there. The first one is negative. The second one's positive. It's right here. And the first, and actually, any point here would be positive first number, negative second number. Do you guys see any pattern, Jensen?
The quadrants.
Oh, quadrants. Oh, my. Another coordinate plane here. And draw my little arrowheads. Okay, there are quadrants. This idea, you don't have to, you're not required to know these right away, but it's something that's good. I might as well bring it up right now as we have it. Okay, the first quadrant is labeled with the Roman numeral 1. That is not a capital I. That's Roman numeral 1. Does anyone know where the second quadrant would be? So you have 3 options. Second quadrant would be where? Marissa?
Right below the first one.
Okay, wouldn't it seem like below it, maybe like clockwise? But in this case, it's to the left of it. That's the second quadrant. So which way, what pattern is that so far? You're moving counterclockwise, which means that's going to be the third quadrant, and your leftover fourth quadrant. Okay? And I'll label these right here so you remember what we're talking about. Quadrants. Quadrants. Why do we call it quadrants? Quadrants. John?
Because there are drinks and there's quad, which is Spanish for four.
It's not.
Well, the Spanish word cuatro comes from the, I think it's a Latin or Greek word quad. So quad means four quadrants. So isn't it nice to know a little bit about language that can help you a little bit more with math? It does. Okay, and that's going to be later on more apparent. Okay, another thing, and last thing here, I'm going to give you example number 2. So example number 2, someone read for me that problem there on page 37, and that will be your last problem here. Okay, Sophie, read the instructions. So it says name.
Name the ordered pair for each point.
Okay, they give you 2 points, A and B. A, they want you to find C. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw this for you guys. You don't have to draw it. Now, do you guys notice how my graph paper, since it's so far away from you, it's kind of small when I write on it? So what I can do is another tool to help me to communicate to you guys. Instead of for right now, instead of for me making every 1 a tick mark, I'm going to make every 2 a tick mark. Do you see what I'm doing here? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. And I'll do it here as well. Do you guys see what I'm doing? And again, you don't have to do this. I'll finish up here. You don't have to do this, but it helps you out when you're communicating. All right, last thing here. C is right here.
So we don't draw this?
Don't draw this. Yeah, this is for you guys to look at. What are the coordinates of C? Well, what I do is this. First, I start the origin. How many did I go left or right?
2.
I went 2 to the
Both.
right. And then where do I go from there? 2 up, right? 1, 2. So what's the coordinates of C? Oh, wow. 2, 2. All right, your homework's easy, guys.
No.
I'm going to turn off Swivl. Thank you, Swivl.